Today we'll be going over medieval society and the two concepts of one, feudalism, and two, manorialism. These are the political, social, and economic systems that created a sense of order after the fall of Rome and there was all the chaos and violence in Europe. So in medieval society, historians have categorized it into those who pray, those who fight, and those who work. And this is actually also a concept that was organized and developed in the Middle Ages as well. There are documents of medieval bishops categorizing people into pray, fight, and work. So the prayer, those are our clergy, and we've already covered that concept of cardinals, bishops, priests, and how the Catholic Church is organized. Today we'll be focusing more on those who fight, so that's nobility, and those who work, so our peasants and our serfs. So these are the secular or non-religious parts of medieval Europe. And as we've gone over, the clergy provides the chance for salvation, which everyone wants. The nobility are the ones who provide protection. And the peasants and serfs, they're the ones who provide labor. So go ahead and complete your notes for this section. And this is actually a piece of stained glass depicting those who pray, those who fight, and those who work. Now, before we begin, there is really no such thing as social class because there's really no money. No one has any real cash currency wealth in the Middle Ages. Everything's done through barter. So there's really no opportunity to move up the social ladder or the social pyramid. You know, for example, we understand social class as you can go to school and you can get a good education and you can get a better job and move up social class that way. In the Middle Ages, there really is no such thing. However, it's a lot easier to understand the feudal system and its members through this pyramid format. So that's why we're going to be using that. So this is the structure of feudal society here. This is the nobility. So we have the king at the top. Then we have the lords. And the lesser lords. The knights. So these are all our fighters. And down here we have our workers. So how does this whole system work? Before we go on, I need to remind you about our modern ideas about fairness and equality don't really apply in medieval life. So I need you to just get those out of your head, because in this time period, the goal is to survive. There's all these various mini wars going on all over the land, and as a peasant, you just want to survive. You're not totally concerned about, are you being treated fairly as an individual? Feudalism and manorialism meet the needs of survival and protection in medieval Europe. And the way this works is, in exchange for protection, people would promise their loyalty and service to the king and lord. So if this helps you, you can think of it as the king is living in Boston. He's amassed all the land in Massachusetts through heredity, so through his parents, his father, and good military strategy. So he has all of Massachusetts. But he knows that he cannot defend all the land by himself, and he needs fighters. So what he does is he starts handing out parcels of land called fiefs. You can think of those as our county, so Norfolk County. So we have the king here. He grants land to a noble, and that noble promises to provide him with service, money, and knights. So within Norfolk County, our nobles, our lords here, they need fighters too. They can't fight by themselves. So they start splitting up their land and giving it to lesser lords and knights. These are also called manors or fiefs, and we could compare those to our towns. So now we have continuing to split it up. So the nobles grant land to knights and lesser lords. They provide protection in military service when they're called upon. And then lastly, none of these folks are ever going to consider working the land. They're not going to be harvesting crops or spreading seed or dealing with livestock. They're not going to be doing that stuff. So what they need is they need labor. So they offer to protect the peasants if they maintain the manor and they farm. So they grant little plots of land to peasants and serfs in exchange for food and services when they are demanded. Now, again, to us, the system sounds really unfair, but if you are a Joe Schmo peasant who no longer has to worry about his house being burned down or his crops being stolen, this system really does do the job. So in review, there's some basic definitions for you guys to jot down on your notes. So a broad definition of feudalism is the political and military system where protection was provided in exchange for loyalty and service. And in this system, the elite maintain power, so land equals power. Those lesser lords become knights. And the feudal system is usually organized on the basics of contracts between individuals, where you pay your homage, you're faithful to the lord and the king. So take a moment to complete that section of your notes. So we talked about the fiefs here, and those are considered all of the lord's land. And within that land is the manor. And this is where all the people and the peasants live. And this is a wonderful map depicting what a manor would look like. And everything that you need to survive is in this fief. We have a church, we have pasture, we have a source of water, all these different areas to plant in various parts of the year. Now this is where we come to the next concept of manorialism. And this is broadly defined as the system within feudal society where self-sufficient economies are maintained on manors. So everything that's sufficient for life is created at the manor. The nobility, so the lord, is going to tell you how and when to use the resources at the manor. So for example, things like who can hunt when and where and how much on his land. What are the fees to use the grist mill on his land, which, by the way, it's the only one around, so you have to use it and you have to pay the fee. And also in manorialism, it's really necessary for those who work to cooperate and work together. And we'll spend a little bit more time talking about that next class. In the way I try to remember the differences between the two is that feudalism is the structure of society and manorialism is the day-to-day function of life at the manor. So feudalism is almost like the government structure and manorialism is the day-to-day functions. So to sum everything up, this is what I'm looking for you guys to do, is to give me an idea of what are some great aspects of feudalism. Again, get out of your head our ideas about equality of fairness and just focus on the system itself and what needs it met. And if you could give me a characteristic of manorialism and have both of these for next class, that would be great. So that was our lecture on medieval society and the concepts of feudalism and manorialism.